Welcome to my class on intonation. I'm Mr. Sasuya Morabo, and in this class I'll be taking you through what intonation is. Have you ever noticed that when someone speaks, there seems to be a rising and falling of the pitch of one's voice? This is what intonation is all about. Now, I just mentioned the word pitch. It is very important to understand what pitch is to be able to understand what intonation is all about. So what is pitch? Pitch is a degree of height of the voice in speech, or better put, the degree or the highness and lowness of one's voice in speaking. So, having understood what pitch is, then there's something else that you need to understand, and that is tone. Tone plays an important role in English. Tone gives the listener an idea about the speaker's emotions. So, the tone of one's voice in speaking relates to intonation. Now, this brings us to what intonation is proper. Intonation is the degree or the rise and fall of the pitch in one's voice in speaking. The rise and fall of the pitch in one's voice when one speaking. So, every human being has a pitch of the voice, as tone, and experiences what intonation is. Like I'm speaking now, it seems to be a rise and fall of my voice, of my pitch, so that what I'm saying does not become monotonous, doesn't become boring. And this brings us to a pattern of intonation. Pattern of intonation is also referred as tone. Basically, we have two patterns of intonation, but these two patterns of intonation give rise to other patterns. Basically, we have just the falling tune and the rising tune, or the falling tone and the rising tone. But in this lesson, I'm going to be teaching you about 4 different patterns of intonation. These are the falling tone, rising tone, and the non-final and wavering tones. So what's the falling tone? The falling tone is experienced when there seems to be a fall of the pitch at the end of a sentence or at the end of an expression. The pitch seems to come down when making an expression or when making a sentence. So where do we find the falling tone? The falling tone is observed in statements, simple statements like "I am Mr. We." Like there is a stone on the floor. It's a simple statement, so they take the falling tone. Also for questions that begin with WH, like the questions like where are you going? What is your name? So those are examples of WH questions. Then we have the rising tone. The rising tone occurs when there seems to be a rise of the pitch at the end of a sentence. Examples of these sentences include the yes and no question, a question that requires you to say yes or to say no. They are also referred to as polar questions. For example, are you a Nigerian? The person is required to say to give a yes or a no answer. Now, this takes us to the next one, which is the non-final intonation pattern. The non-final intonation pattern is observed in unfinished thoughts. Then the last one is a wavering intonation pattern. The wavering intonation pattern is observed in expressions that contain emotions. So, in this lesson, I've taught you what intonation is. And to understand intonation, you must understand pitch, which is the rise and fall of one's voice in speaking. I've taught you what tone is. I've taught you what intonation is, which is the rise and fall of the pitch in one's voice when speaking. And then lastly, I've taught you what intonation pattern is. Like I said, we basically two intonation patterns, but this can give rise to three, like you have some text, like four, like you just taught now, in some cases, 5 or 6. So, I believe you have picked out something from this lesson. I hope to see you in my next class. Thank you.